Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. You guys have been great. I've really enjoyed the last couple of weeks. The video production feels really crisp. Feels like we're digging into some of the roots, right? We're getting to the core of what is going on out in the world. Where this, as we get closer to shitting the fan, where the direction it's coming from, where we can expect to see it. And I know, of all the people that knows, my active imagination, guys, tells me it could be anywhere. And it could come from nowhere. Just totally catch us by surprise. Be that as it may, if we've got burning embers, I'm going to use some fire analogy. If we've got burning embers, when the winds of change come, those embers are already hot and glowing, and they just need a little bit of wind and a little bit of fuel, and poof, we're up in smoke. We're burning again. And speaking of that, got an article here. Quote, "We've had fires since time began." That is a quote from the Australian Deputy Prime Minister. And the Deputy Prime Minister is their equivalent of the Vice President. So in their case, the Deputy Prime Minister, the Vice President of Australia, both a country and a continent. And I do love the Aussies as much as I love the Brits and the Canadians. They're another Anglo common law, Commonwealth type country. So their laws, as well as their language, is very similar to ours, as well as a lot of their attitudes. And I've met a lot of Kiwis, I've met a lot of Aussies, just great people. And what's nice about them, and I know I'm digressing, is even if you have political differences with them, you can talk to them. They don't just start hitting you with bicycle locks and spraying chemicals in your eyes. Well, I mean, but that could change. That could change. So, anyways, we've had fires since time began, says the Deputy Prime Minister. Enlightened woke capital city greenies. What is he doing? Who's he talking to, right? Well, here we go. Australia's largest city, let's see. Sydney is now reporting facing a catastrophic fire danger on Tuesday. The highest warning level that's ever been issued for Australia's largest city, with Bloomberg adding that, quote, as the country's bushfire season becomes longer and more intense, the threat to lives and homes across the nation has grown. So, predictably, this is the quote is written so well that it sounds like me. Predictably, the patron saint of environmentalists, Greta Thunberg, took to Twitter to inform her 3 million followers that the numbers don't lie and the science is clear. If anyone tells you this is part of a normal cycle or we've had fires like this before, smile politely and walk away, because they don't know what they're talking about. What? This is just, gah! You can tell I am a little bit, I'm enthusiastic. I think it's the new coffee I've got. It's got an extra kick. Does anyone remember the movie The Shining? There's two girls in that. They're twins. They're the Red Rum twins, which is murder spelled backwards, right? Greta, to me, looks like one of them, but where's the other, right? Where's the other, right? If she was the girl from The Shining, Greta, then she would have killed her other sister. That's how twisted this little twit is, right? If she were that character incarnate, I bet that's what she would do. And here's another thing. In a world of 8 billion people, Greta is a stalwart. She is a juggernaut of a social figure. She's just huge. No, she's not. 3 million? That's it. She's got 3 million followers. That's it. Who is she with 3 million followers? Now, in her defense, she's got a whole lot more than me. I've only got 70,000 followers that are subscribers. I'm not claiming to be Greta. I'm not trying to change the world. I'm not trying to put pressure on politicians. I work with you, you work with me, we work with each other in a preparedness network environment We're not trying to save the world. We're trying to save our own asses when these idiots fuck things up. So, I'm not saying that she isn't some kind of superhero or superstar, but in reality, she really isn't. She does not speak for Generation Z. She doesn't speak for the millennials. She doesn't speak for anyone hardly on a global scale because she's a Swedish citizen and is doing things internationally. She has basically no support. Out of 8 billion people, what is 3 million people? I can do the math. It is 0.0025%. I just did that in my head, by the way. Battle that, Greta. See if you can do the numbers. 0.0025 of a percent. Okay, that's if there were 10 billion people in the world, it would be 0.003. But because there's only 8 billion, I've kind of rounded it down to 0.0025. Anyways, she doesn't have anyone. She doesn't speak for anyone. Why should we do what she says? She's not elected. She's just subscribed. There's people that are subscribers just to hate her dumbass. So still, she speaks for even less. But just going off of some nice round numbers and making some assumptions, right? What is she doing? She is an exploited little girl who has some psychological problems. Some big psychological problems. But, right? She is speaking supposedly for the youth, and she's speaking supposedly for the world. And she talks down to everybody. Now, I make fun of people. I do ad hominem attacks. I don't give a fuck. I have fun with it. Right? But I am not sanctimonious. At least I don't think I am. I don't feel sanctimonious. I'm just talking. This fucking girl is sanctimonious as fuck. Right? She's telling others to dismiss people who don't get it. So once again, we're running on this youth concept that they know, right? And you smile politely and walk away. Well, at least she's encouraging not violence because they don't know what they're talking about. As these twits get older, they're going to move into the political class, or at least try to. Right? Kind of like the, hey, boomer, little twit that's in, I can't remember which parliament. It wasn't an American Congress. Right? They're talking down to us, people of experience, Gen X, and the boomers who have spent a lifetime. Me and you didn't fuck this system up. We didn't overspend. That's the politicians. It shouldn't be, hey, boomer, or yeah, boomer, or yes, boomer, or whatever. It should be, yes, politicians. Leave us the fuck out of this mess. I haven't liked Social Security from the first paycheck I saw, where I saw what they took out. But you're forced to play the game. Anyways, back to this, where there's smoke, there's fire. We got some hot embers. And all it needs is a problem to just set ablaze, not to forests and brush, but to our social structure and the respect and obedience to law. And the law I'm talking about is not the one the government has, but rather the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Right? Behave well. So Australia's bushfires are getting worse and climate change is to blame. Of course they're going to blame it on that. But are they getting worse? No, I go with what the PM has said. We've had fires before. And if the fires get out of hand, it's because of mismanagement. In other words, the state or the government, either in California or down in Australia, they're not putting resources where they need to be. I've detailed in the past how I have lived in California and experienced wildfires my whole life. I have some experience witnessing them, observing the state's response, how they address them, how they solve the fire problem, putting them out. For some reason, all of a sudden, we can't put out fires. Interesting. So when I talk about this social problem, these embers that are sitting around waiting to be fanned, I'm going to bring up Hong Kong. Hong Kong police warn city is on brink of total breakdown. What is going on in Hong Kong? The protests were originally started over an idea the government had, the government of Hong Kong, to align itself and allow Chinese authorities to take control sooner than anyone would otherwise hope. And that caused some protests. So the government said, hey, we're going to wipe that off the board. And I know that, that's a trick. They always say, okay, we're not going to do it. And then they just reintroduce it later. But it hasn't been reintroduced. Still, the protests rage on. These protesters, youth, are doing what now? They're setting fire to buildings. They're stopping commerce by going into subway stations and shutting down the airport. They're shutting down travel. They're shutting down commerce. They're impeding or deterring tourists from wanting to go there, because what tourist in their right mind would want to go visit a fucking disaster zone with protesters running around? I detailed yesterday a older man, probably a Gen Xer, maybe a boomer, right? Doesn't matter. But he was having a verbal discussion. And unlike Greta Thunberg, who shot daggers with her eyes at Trump as if a fucking child, right, can concoct an idea of someone that she knows just by reputation of hatred for him. She has no fucking clue what life is like. She's just starting to come out into the adult world and look around. Right? But she says, hey, just walk away. It's the best thing she's ever said. All of you Thunbergites, just get the fuck out of the way and walk away, because you don't know what you're talking about. These protesters, right, they didn't like what the old guy was saying, so one of them, poured gas on him, lit him on fire. If he doesn't die, he's going to have a painful, horrific problem for at least a couple of years, doing skin grafts, medications, right? So the point is these people, and I'm going to call them leftists for lack of a better term, around the world, even when there's not a problem like Hong Kong, when there's not a problem like Hong Kong, what do? They create a problem. Where there wasn't one, now there is. Problems with transportation, banking, problems with investment. No one wants to invest money in a city that's going to burn. Right? There's problems with tourism. There's problems with social interaction behavior. If you can't walk down the street without hearing a, hey, boomer, I can't wait to hear, hey, Gen Xer. Oh, if I hear that in person, it's going to be a fucking mess. Anyways, if you turn around and say anything, they're gonna douse you in gasoline and burn you. Holy shit! So Australia, well, we could have some bad brush fire. Well, nothing there yet. Well, Hong Kong, well, there's no problem anymore. But let's make a problem, and let's take a look at China. There was a mass chemical attack. I don't know. I'm tired of this term, mass destruction, mass chemical attack, mass murder. How about just multiple chemical attack? They use the term mass as if to equivalate, that's not even a word, make an equivalent of a mass shooting where 10 people get killed to a weapon of mass destruction where 10,000 to 10 million can be killed with a military-grade, industrialized war mechanism. Right? That is a mass weapon, kind of like Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Those were weapons of mass destruction. Killing people with chemicals or bullets is not mass destruction. It's not mass murder. I mean, that term has been overused and now it's being adopted. And I want us to always be cognizant of terminology. Terminology is important because it creates within our mind a thought or a belief based on a mental picture. At least it does with me. When you say mass weapon of mass destruction, I think millions. And when you say mass murder, I think a dozen. There's a big difference between a dozen and millions. But the word mass is used for both, as if to imply that mass murder is the same as mass destruction. And then they can use that for to legitimize their legislation, to take away your AR-15, as if it is the not moral equivalent. Well, they want to make it the moral equivalent of a nuclear weapon. So a mass chemical attack on school in China leaves 54 injured, mostly children. They weren't killed, and they're still using the term mass attack. But they were hit with some chemical. The chemical was sodium hydroxide. You can go buy it at the hardware store. Once again, it's one of these things that any of us can buy. Right? You can buy gasoline and make Molotov cocktails and start forest fires if you're a terrorist. You can buy sodium hydroxide, mix it with a little bit of water, and throw it on people. And now that is a mass weapon. Right? You drain cleaner. Fucking drain cleaner. Right? The old-fashioned Drano, sodium hydroxide. But my thing is here. My thing with this is in China, where there's a totalitarian government. That is a government that will not just arrest you, not just throw you in prison for a long time, but will torture you, possibly harvest your organs, right? And keep you there forever, as an example. This is senseless murder or senseless maiming. This is an example of it, right? Now, they have had others there, right? In China doing other dirty deeds. There was the mass stabber when 14 children were killed in Chongqing. The prior year in 2017, a man entered a kindergarten and wounded 11 students with a knife. Right? So we've got a woman and then a man killing and wounding 25. It's interesting that in China, they don't have guns the way we do in America. So they are pretty creative. They'll use chemicals and knives and other weapons to hurt each other. But it's also interesting to me that they are going to ignore the fact that their government makes the American justice and law enforcement system seem pretty tame. Pretty tame. Even though in America here, the Black Lives Matter movement was started because of aggressive use of force by police, in many cases leading to murder. What I consider murder, but at the very least, homicide, right? Killing people you're trying to arrest, not good. But in China, the government is far worse, far worse. But the people there in China, these social miscreants, they're not afraid of the government. If they're not afraid of a government that is that dastardly in China, that in Hong Kong, they're starting to become an aggressive government. If they're not afraid of that, how do they think of you? How will they think of you? Greta right now has a message of peace. What happens when Greta gets a little more hair growing under her armpits and she decides that she's going to raise her arm in that nice commie fist and say, the time for soft words is over. It's time to start taking action, right? Action. She's going to become Action Jackson and just go whip some ass by whipping her 3 million followers into a frenzy. Kind of like that old man or that middle-aged man. Okay, Gen Xer, okay, Boomer, we're coming for you. Right? That's essentially what that's saying is dismiss and we're coming for you. This is the social movement. This is where it's leading. Once again, I want you and me ahead of the game by thinking about what it is they're doing, looking at other social movements, how they're resorting to violence, even when there's not a problem, like Hong Kong. Even in America, where this person or that person is killed, and the people should rightly be outraged. Have every right and I understand the outrage. Even if the guy was fighting the police, you just don't get to kill somebody because they're fighting you. That's what charging him with resisting arrest is really about. This person decided to fight back. That's the crime. Squiggling because they got a knee on your neck is not resisting arrest. But these fucking cops are like that. Right? They'll hurt you to the point where you start resisting and then calling it resisting and then beat you some more. That is America. It's not like China where they just throw you in prison. There is no habeas corpus. There is no trial. It's just done. You are done. You're now in a slave factory. Right? Some things are worse than death. I'm not prescribing a violent response. I'm not prescribing going out in public and making a scene like these people. I'm prescribing that we have food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, and a means of self-defense and a plan and understanding your world, right? I'm not saying if there's 2 grade schools in your area and a high school that you worry about being attacked by these youths. I'm not saying that or saying that's going to happen. But I am saying that's the direction we're going in. As we head towards shit at the fan and these little incremental blips, this social system breakdown of the current system is being caused by the sociopathy of its elitist rulers. And I'll talk about that in another video. The sociopathy of the elite, this is the less than 1% that has and owns half the world's wealth or more. They are causing these other groups, the millennials and the younger groups, they're giving them the raison d'etre, the reason to be what they're becoming. These malcontent, I'm not going to work types. And it's absolutely fascinating. These kids, millennials, that's right. All right, millennials, we heard you. Shut the fuck up. All right, Gen Z, you don't even get a say in it, right? If I can't see your armpit hair from 30 feet away, you're not grown up yet. How do I put this? They want, not all of them, by the way. Again, I'm only talking about the assholes, not the millennials who, like my generation and the boomers, are hard workers, go to work, work a 40, 50, 60, 70-hour work week, kick ass, struggle, pay their taxes, and are buying their way in with hard work. I'm not talking about you guys. You guys kick ass. What I am talking about is the group, these asswipes. They want to take away Social Security. They want to tell us to shut up. They want to tell us to change our lives. They want to tell us you don't get to own houses. They're little socialists. And they're mad because other people have. But what's funny is they want all the free stuff. They want free education. They want their student loans forgiven. They want free medicine and health care. They want free everything, but they don't know that somebody has to pay for it. That's the problem with these youths, but it's being caused by their perception of the world and their lack of real critical thinking skills, because the education system is now an indoctrination system. And it's evident by the results. You can tell the results, what the cause, by the evidence, right? If you go and you run across a charred house, you know there was a fire there. You go, a fire caused this. There's the evidence. These youths are socialist morons. And you go, what caused that building to burn? Yeah. The mental influence is causing the mental charring. So, okay, millennial, okay, Gen Z, go take another hit on your industrially produced crack pipe you call a vape and pretend like it's good for you. You fucking idiots. Right? Oh my God, yeah. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Right? And there have always been fires. But it's the thinking man or woman that understands these things. So anyways, right, what gets me, and the upshot of this is all around the world, crazy things are going on. And we can see that they'll take a problem, the bad guys, and they'll create a social issue out of it. Or they'll take a perceived problem like in Hong Kong and make a social issue out of it. And whether we're talking about California, climate change or Australian climate change, or whether we're talking about a non-existent tyranny yet in Hong Kong. They're not suffering under Chinese tyranny, but they're acting like it. They're creating they're creating more of a problem. They're not solving anything, but they're creating more of a problem. And we need to be aware of it. We need to see the cause of it. We need to take what action actually makes sense. Get prepared. Understand that kids running down the street saying they're hungry and shit hits the fan isn't your responsibility, and it's not your fault. It is the fault of the sociopaths and psychopaths that run the system, and it's the fault of the education system, and partially it's the fault of adults who raised children without at least trying to give them some information. And I'm not blaming all parents, I just happen to be one. But, good parents know who they are, right? And again, the evidence exists when you see a smoldering char remains, right? Half-burned building, half of it was good. Full-burned building, all of it was bad. Right? Anyways, too many analogies, too much information. But the clear direction is heading right into shit hitting the fan. And we're going to see more social disruption, disharmony. And the social disruption and disharmony is always, always, always a symptom of lack of leadership and corruption at the highest levels. American Revolution, French Revolution, all of the other French problems through the 1800s. Regicide in England, right? German Nazi takeover of the country. It's because of corruption. Corruption within and corruption from without. They didn't call them NGOs back in 1920 to 1935. No, they were bankers funding the Nazis. English bankers, American bankers funded the Nazi Party. Let me remind you. English and American bankers, not you and me, but bankers, decided to fund the Nazi Party. Whose fault was it? Right? We want to blame the people who built the ovens, who built the concentration camps, but who caused it to happen? Who enabled it? Who financed it? Those questions need to be asked. Who is enabling and financing Greta Thunberg? Who is enabling and financing all of these radicalized groups who are erupting into chaos, either from real problems or perceived problems? In other words, fictional bullshit problems. We know who is to blame. An example of one of them is Soros. And they are the problem, and they need to be stopped, and they need to be arrested, and they need to be prosecuted to stop all this other bullshit. It's a big fight, isn't it? I can't fix it. You can't fix it. Greta can't fix it. So get prepared. Godspeed. God bless America. Semper Fi. And again, to all of our brothers and sisters in other Anglo countries and any other country where the people have good hearts, right? I pray that we do well in all of this chaos that's coming. Talk to you later.